Hey Goblin, you've been really practicing those war drums.
I'll bring the generic goblin noise!
This video is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. with free weekly content and free shipping on orders over $150. You can save 5% site-wide by using the promo code MTGMudsta. I'm also sponsored by Face to Face Games, Canada's premier Magic the Gathering store. Using the promo code MTGMudsta will get you 5% off site-wide, with eligible orders getting free shipping Canada-wide. If you're looking for a direct way to help the channel, please consider joining my Patreon and becoming a member of the Generic Goblin Gang. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's game was filmed in my studio with some of my good friends MJ, Nick, and Max joining us. Nick is playing his newly made Liesa deck, and his plan is to tax us out, making us pay life for almost every spell in the game. He keeps Godless Shrine, a Plains, 2 Swamps, Orzhov Signet, Sign in Blood, and Obsidat Ghost Council. I still haven't taken apart Ramos, so I thought I'd give it a spin for one last time, as I've said several times before, keeping Boneyard Lurker, Command Tower, Watery Grave, Godless Shrine, Beast Whisperer, Forest, and Steam Vents. Max has built Inquisitor Eisenhorn, keeping Arcane Signet, Blade of the Oni, Academy Manufactor, Treasure Cruise, 2 Swamps, and a Darkwater Catacombs. MJ has built Tawnos the Toymaker, and wants to cast some birds and beasts, keeping 2 Forests, Garruk's Pack Leader, Island, Cultivate, and Descendant's Path. I win the die roll and start us off. I draw and play a tap Steam Vents. Nick also plays a tap Shockland with a Godless Shrine. Max has a Swamp, passing after that. MJ draws and plays a Forest, passing. I liked Nick's turn so much I follow it, playing a tap Godless Shrine as well, and pass. Nick plays a Swamp and pays 2 for an Orzhov Signet. Max has a Darkwater Catacombs as a land for turn and pays 2 for his own Signet in the form of an Arcane Signet and passes to MJ after that. MJ just drops an island and passes. These turns are pretty quick as we're just playing lands and I drop a Forest and pass. Nick draws and plays a Plains. He casts Sign in Blood, drawing 2 and losing 2, passing after that. Max has a Swamp for turn, and now has enough mana for his commander, Inquisitor Eisenhorn, passing once that resolves. MJ plays a Command Tower, and then casts a Cultivate. They go to find a basic for hand, and put 1 into play tapped, and pass. I continue with my tap lands, dropping a Temple of Malice and scrying 1. Once I'm done that, I pass to Nick. Nick plays a Swamp for turn, and then moves to resolve Liesa. With his commander on the stack, I respond by casting Sultai Charm to draw 2 and discard 1, aiming to avoid the life loss. Once that resolves, Nick's commander resolves, and he passes after that. Max draws and reveals Agadeem's Awakening to Eisenhorn's trigger, making a Cherubal token. He then plays a Heraldic Banner, taking 2 from Liesa, and names Black, and then decides to play Agadeem's Awakening as the land half. Going to combat, he swings Eisenhorn at me for 3, and I take the hit. This has Max making 3 clue tokens. He follows up with Blade of the Oni, taking another 2 from Liesa, and passes after that. MJ's got a Forest, and just casts Tawnos, taking 2 and passing. I draw and play Clifftop Retreat. I then drop a Widespread Thieving, hiding away a card from my top 5 and taking 2 and passing. Nick's got a Swamp for turn and casts Isolation Cell to really put the squeeze on us, passing after that. Max plays an Island and casts an Academy Manufacture, not paying for the Isolation Cell, and loses a total of 4 life. He then equips a Blade of the Oni to Eisenhorn and goes to attack. He swings Eisenhorn and the Cherubal at Nick, and Nick responds by casting Infernal Grasp and targets Eisenhorn, taking a total of 4. And he blocks the Cherubal with Liesa, gaining 5 back, so he's only lost a total of 1. After that, Max passes. MJ plays a Forest and plays a Grux Pack Leader, making a copy with Tawnos and taking 2 from the isolation cell. I draw and play a Command Tower. I then cast a Beast Whisperer, paying the 2 for the cell and passing to Nick. Nick draws, playing Seraph Sanctuary, and gains 1 as the land comes in. He then casts a Merciless Eviction, naming creatures, and exiles the board of them. Max draws and casts Karn, Scion of Urza, and then downticks the Walker to make a Karnstruct. He then follows up by casting Sword of Light and Shadow, and passes to MJ. MJ's turn is quite quick, as they play Nykthos, and then recast their commander, Tawnos, and pass. I've got a Glacial Fortress for turn, and pay 3 to cast a Crystal Shard, and then immediately activate it and target the Karnstruct. With no extra mana lying around, Max has to bounce the token back to his hand, which has him lose it, and I pass to Nick. Nick draws, and plays Obsidat Ghost Council in his main phase. He targets me with the triggers it enters, and then passes, exiling the Ghost Daddy on his end step. Max plays a Creeping Tar Pit for turn, and replays Eisenhorn. He then downticks Karn again for another Karnstruct, and passes. MJ draws, and in their main phase, cast Descendant Path, and I respond by casting Riveteer's Charm to exile my top 3, which I can play until my next end of turn. MJ then moves to cast Lightning Greaves and equips them onto Tawnos, and then plays a Wirewood Savage. With nothing else, they pass. I draw and play Sunpetal Grove. I cast Ramos, and then Nizzet Charm from exile, drawing 2 and discarding 2 and making a treasure off the Widespread Thieving. I also get to add counters to Ramos, and pass after that. Nick draws and casts a Thought Prison, targeting me. He looks at my hand and picks Quandrix's Command, so whenever anyone casts an instant, or a green, or a blue spell, they'll lose 2. He then remembers that Obsidat was supposed to have returned, and he targets MJ with the trigger this time. Moving to combat, Nick swings Obsidat at MJ, who takes the hit. Nick then passes through his phases, exiling Obsidat again, and passing to Max. Max's turn has him upticking Karn and targeting me, and I pick one of the 2, choosing an island. He then plays a Tome of Legends, and then casts an Insight, losing 2 from the Thought Prison. Moving to combat, he swings the Karnstruct at Nick, and deals 7, and then passes after that. MJ reveals a Forest to the Descendant's Path, and then draws for turn. They play a Rampaging Baloths, losing 4, and copying it with Tawnos. They then play Windswept Heath, making 2 Beast tokens, and drawing 4 cards total from the Wirewood Savage. MJ then cracks the Heath for a Forest, losing 1, and making more beasts and drawing more cards. They then activate Nykthos, making 7 green mana, and mutate an Auspicious Starix onto the Wirewood Savage, and gets another copy from Tawnos, and mutates onto it as well. They get an Owlbear Club, and then a Blossoming Bogbeast off the mutate triggers. And then move the Greaves to the Cub. Going to combat, MJ swings the Cub at me, and reveals a Thunderfoot Baloth, which comes into play tapped and attacking me as well. I block the Cub with Ramos to take it out, but still take 7 from the Baloth. With combat done, MJ then has to discard down to hand size as they pass. I draw and play a Shivan Reef. I then play Vivian, Monster's Advocate, down-ticking her to tutor for a card. I then mutate a Boneyard Lurker onto Ramos, returning Drowned Catacombs from my graveyard to my hand, and tutoring for Ivy, Gleeful Spell Thief into play. Going to combat, I swing Ramos at Nick for 9, who connects, and I pass after that. Nick's upkeep has Obsidat coming back in, and drains MJ for 2. He plays a Temple of the False God, and then casts Exquisite Blood. Going to combat, he swings Obsidian at Karn, and Max responds by activating the Tome of Legends to see if he can rip an instant or sorcery to make a demon with Eisenhorn. He doesn't though, and unfortunately Karn gets taken out. Nick then casts Liesa in his post-combat main phase, paying 2 life for the command tax instead of mana. He then passes, exiling Obsidian on his end step, and during his end step, Max cracks a clue token to draw a card. Max draws and plays Urza's Saga. He then casts Soul Ring and a Cranial Plating, and equips the Sword of Light and Shadow to his commander. He swings his commander at Nick for 5, gaining some life from the sword trigger, and making some clue tokens from Eisenhorn. In his post-combat main phase, he casts Tezzeret, Master of the Bridge, getting drained for 4. Max then casts Feed the Swarm on Exquisite Blood, taking a total of 7 from it. Nick only gains a total of 2 life from the Liesa drain though, and Max then upticks Tezzeret to drain everyone for a bunch. Once he's done that, he passes to MJ. MJ draws, and moves the Lightning Greaves over onto the Thunderfoot Baloth. Going to combat, they swing the 2 Beast tokens and the Bog Beast at Tezzeret, and the Thunderfoot Baloth, Auspicious Starix, and 2 Beast tokens at Nick. MJ gains some life from the Bog Beast attacking, and Max blocks the Bog Beast with a Construct, but loses Tezzeret while Nick takes lethal. MJ then follows up combat with a Beast Whisperer, and then activates Nykthos to help make enough mana to cast a Krosan Warchief. This lets them draw 3, and they then cast a Greater Good. MJ then sacrifices the 7/7 Beast token to Greater Good, and then plays their first land for turn with a Hinterland Harbor. MJ then mutates a Pouncing Shore Shark onto the Starix, bouncing Eisenhorn and the Construct, and then reveals a Souvenir Snatcher, a Trumpeting Gnar, Soul Ring, and Talisman of Curiosity to the Starix triggers. MJ continues their mutate train by mutating a Parcel Beast onto the stack, and bouncing my only 2 creatures, and then flipping 6 permanents with the Starix, including some lands to get even more beasts, Survival of Fittest, Bramble Sovereign, and a Sea Dasher Octopus, plus a Roaring Primadox. MJ's not done with the mutate though, and mutates a Migratory Greathorn onto the Souvenir Snatcher. They get to find some basics, and steal my Crystal Shard, and after a massive turn, pass to me. I draw and play the Drowned Catacombs I'd returned earlier. I then recast Ramos and Ivy as well, and then bring out a Destiny Spinner. With no board wipe to stop MJ though, I pass to Max and hope. Max draws and plays an island. He puts to stack and all is dust, but with a ton of cards, not to mention mana, MJ is ready with a counterspell. Max then casts a Brainstorm to see if he can find another answer, but with nothing, we know we're dead to MJ's turn and scoop it up. Game review time. So MJ continues the trend of their building incredible decks that I'd never see coming and then doing so well with them. I think their deck mutated more often than my mutate dedicated deck, and that's saying something. I think they're an incredible deck builder, and I'm always excited to see when they've got something new for us. Speaking of new, we were also spoiled with a brand new deck from Max with Inquisitor Eisenhorn, and unfortunately he didn't get too many triggers to make those charitable 4/4 demon tokens. This is also the second time in I think about a month that someone played Tezzeret, Master of the Bridge, and that card is broken when there are artifacts, my goodness. Nick's Liesa deck was taxing, and not the annoying kind where you have to pay more mana, but just the painful kind where everything you did hurt. Casting a creature spell and potentially losing 4 life for doing it was brutal. And once that Thought Prism resolved, I was really worried that MJ was going to die, because that was hitting most of their deck. I said it at the beginning, I've said it in other games, but this is probably, maybe, kind of the last time I'm playing Ramos, at least until I change it to some other kind of mutate deck. I'm pretty hyped by Tawnos now, But Ivy apparently is also very good, and Otrimi could be a lot of fun, and I don't have a Sultai deck or a Simic deck, so either of those could work. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, Cool Stuff Inc., Multizone, Original Magic Art, and Alter Sleeves. But it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.